You know, it's probably the biggest question we could ever ask. It's the ultimate mystery, really. The greatest detective story of all time. Where did all of this, where did we come from? Today, we're going to follow the clues, from the very birth of the universe all the way to the first living cell, and see if we can unravel this incredible story.
So where does a story like this even begin? Well, it's not on a planet, not even in a solar system. Nope, it begins right here in the vast, silent emptiness of the cosmos. About 13.7 billion years ago, the universe just popped into existence, and with it, all the raw materials for everything that would ever be.
And from all that cosmic dust, a tiny rocky planet started to pull itself together. Our planet. But look, this is an Earth you would not recognize at all. It was a churning, volcanic world, constantly being hammered by asteroids, with boiling, acidic oceans and a sky full of poison. It was beautiful, sure, but it was violent, and for a very, very long time, it was totally empty.
So on this wild, chaotic stage, the greatest show in the universe was just about to start. But hold on, before we can figure out how life began, we've got to tackle a much bigger question first. What even is life? What's that mysterious spark that separates a rock from a rose, or a tiny bacterium from a grain of sand? Answering that is where our investigation really has to kick off.
Okay, so every good investigation starts with a timeline, right? And in this case, our crime scene, well, it spans billions of years. So let's lay out the key events.
Just take a look at this. We go from the Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago, to Earth forming around 4.5 billion years ago. But then, check out that gap. The very first hints of life don't show up until 3.8 billion years ago. That means for nearly a billion years, our world was just rock, gas, and water. Life didn't just appear overnight. The stage had to be set for a long, long time.
And here it is. This is our first solid piece of evidence, our first fossilized footprint. These weird-looking rocks are called stromatolites. They're basically giant reefs built up over thousands of years by trillions and trillions of tiny microscopic organisms. It's an amazing reminder that life's first act wasn't some big dramatic thing. It was quiet, it was microscopic, and it was all happening just under the surface of the water.
So we have a when, but we still need a how. For life to get started, you need the right ingredients. So let's go check out the chemical kitchen of early Earth, the famous Primordial Soup.
Now, the main scientific idea we're digging into here is called abiogenesis. It's the theory that life didn't crash land here from space on a meteor. No, it's the idea that life started right here, on its own, bubbling up from the non-living chemistry of the early planet. Life from non-life. Sounds crazy, but let's see.
So, what was this chemical cocktail like? Well, take a look. The early atmosphere was thick with water vapor, carbon dioxide, a nasty mix of methane and ammonia. But the most important part of this list is what's missing. See that? No oxygen. None. Zero. The very gas we need to live would have been total poison to the first life forms.
Now, this all sounded like a good story, but for a long time, it was just a hypothesis. Then, in 1953, two scientists, Stanley Miller and Miller-Urey, decided to actually test it. They basically built a tiny ancient Earth in a bottle. They put in the ancient ocean, the toxic oxygen-free atmosphere, the whole shebang, all sealed up in this glass contraption.
So they heated the water to make clouds, circulated those nasty gases around, and then zapped them with electric sparks, just like the constant lightning storms on the early planet. And then, something absolutely incredible happened. Within a week, the clear water had turned this murky brown, and when they tested it, they found it was full of amino acids, the literal building blocks of proteins. They had proved it. The basic ingredients for life could just make themselves.
Okay, so we've got the building blocks. That's huge. But a pile of bricks isn't a house, right? For life to really get going, it needs a blueprint, a set of instructions, and a way to copy them. And this leads us to one of the biggest chicken and egg problems in all of biology.
So here's the puzzle. In all life today, DNA holds the master blueprint. But DNA is just information. It can't do anything by itself. To do things, it needs proteins. Proteins are the workers that build the cell. But, and here's the catch, to build the proteins, you need the instructions that are coded in the DNA. It's a perfect paradox. You can't have one without the other. So, how on earth could this system have ever gotten started?
Well, the answer, scientists now believe, is that maybe
Neither came first. The star of the early show might have been a completely different molecule. Everybody, meet RNA. Think of it as DNA's simpler, more versatile cousin. It might just be life's original all-in-one multi-tool.
And this is what we call the RNA World Hypothesis. The idea is just brilliant. Early life might have been based entirely on RNA, because unlike DNA, which can only store information, and unlike proteins, which can only do things, RNA can do both. It can be the blueprint and the builder, all at once. It completely solves our chicken and egg problem.
So, we have a self-replicating molecule. The engine of life is finally running. But a naked strand of RNA floating around in the ocean is super vulnerable. To really become alive, it needs a container. It needs a home. It needs to build the first cell.
So for this little collection of molecules to be considered a real protocell, like a precursor to life, it needed to pull off three really important jobs. First, it needed a wall, a boundary to separate its own chemistry from the chaos outside. Second, it had to keep its replicating RNA safe inside. And third, it needed a way to pull in energy to power everything. It needed a metabolism. And you know what's amazing? Nature provided the perfect, elegant solution. The early oceans were full of these fatty molecules that had a cool trick. One end loves water, and the other end hates it. So whenever they're in water, they automatically snap together to form tiny, perfect bubbles. These membranes were the perfect, self-assembling containers to protect that precious RNA inside.
Okay, we have a container, and we have a replicator. The final piece of this puzzle is power. A cell is like a tiny city that never ever sleeps, and it needs a constant source of energy to keep the lights on. So let's look at how the first cells built their power plants.
Every living thing runs on a universal energy currency, a tiny rechargeable battery called ATP. As you can see on the chart, the first life forms were really inefficient. They used a process called glycolysis to get just 2 little units of ATP out of a sugar molecule. But then came the game changer, using oxygen to burn fuel. This new process, oxidative metabolism, could generate up to 38 units of ATP. That's an energy explosion, nearly 20 times more powerful. And that massive energy surplus is what made big, complex life like us even possible. So, all the pieces are finally in place. We have a self-replicating RNA molecule protected inside a self-assembling bubble powered by a simple metabolism. We have a cell. And all the evidence suggests that this incredibly unlikely series of events succeeded exactly once.
Think about this for a second. Every living thing on this planet, every plant, every animal, every fungus, every bacterium, we all share a common genetic heritage. We can trace all of our family trees all the way back to a single population of cells that lived billions of years ago. We call it LUCA, the last universal common ancestor.
And from that one single ancestor, the tree of life branched out into the 3 huge domains you see here. You've got the bacteria, the real workhorses of the planet. Then you have the archaea, who are masters of living in the most extreme places you can imagine. And finally, you have eukarya, the domain that includes all complex life, like fungi, plants, and of course, us.
And this is the result. It's just breathtaking. From that one microscopic ancestor hiding out in some primordial pond 4 billion years ago, came every single one of these branches. The dragonfly, the dinosaur, the giant sequoia, the blue whale, and you. We are all just different leaves on the exact same ancient and deeply connected tree of life.
It really leaves you with this final kind of humbling thought from biologist Nathan Wolfe. After this whole epic journey, we tend to focus on our own little twig on the tree. But he reminds us, if an alien visited Earth, they would likely take some note of humans, but probably spend most of their time trying to understand the dominant form of life on our planet, microorganisms. It's just a powerful reminder that for all our complexity, this has always been and still is a microbial world. We're just lucky enough to be living in it.